Indira Gandhi National Open University presents a program for students of MAJMC, MAJDM and PGJMC titled Indian Films Industry Part 1, course code NJM020. The presenter of the program is Dr. Shikha Rai, Associate Professor, School of Journalism and New Media Studies, IGNOU. Let's listen to the program.
Welcome everyone. This is a program on Indian film industry. And in this program, we're specifically going to talk about the tinsel town, the historical perspectives, and the economics of the Indian film industry. So while we proceed, let us first throw some light on the historical perspective of the Indian film industry. Lumiere brothers were the founding fathers of cinema in India, and they invented the first moving camera and projector. One of their earliest projections had a shot of a train which was approaching the screen, and the incident constituted one of the earliest legends of establishment of cinema because as the people observed it coming towards them, a few of them ran away frantically. Also, D.W. Griffith is called the father of editing. He formulated the initial visual grammar ranging from the close-up to the long shot. Slowly, an orchestra found its way into the cinema halls, providing music as an accompaniment. And later on, this gave way to a synchronized soundtrack along with the visuals, rendering an audio-visual medium. With better understanding of photosensitive chemicals, color found its way onto the screen, and with better technology, we had more of lightweight cameras, enabling shooting outside the studios. Experimentation with various narratives on screen started, and it was a concise yet complex grammar for cinema to be formulated. Concise because it was able to enable the deciphering by the audience, and it was complex as the production process became more and more tedious as the scale of production rose. Also, the studio system was introduced in Hollywood as various studio owners signed deals with the cast and crew to produce more films. Just like factory churns out products, these studios were making and releasing films. Each producer had a special dedicated genre, and the public knew what to expect from each production house. During the time of Great Depression in the United States, one of the few industries that made profit was films, as the masses went to the theater to find escape. Films have always reflected the economic and socio-political conditions of the society on screen. During the World War II, a series of documentaries named Why We Fight were made by the United States government to justify their involvement in the war. These films were spreading the propaganda of their political ideology and were screened in the theaters before all the feature film screenings. The noir film genre reflected the general dark mood of the public in the post-war era. With the advent of technology, these films were depicting a dystopian future like the Terminator series, which were propagated during 1984 to 2019, and it started being produced. Thus, films are a mirror of the society. They reflect the collective sentiments and the collective understanding of the masses. They can also be the harbingers of change by highlighting the social problems ailing a society. Now let us discussing what happens when films come to India. Why is Mumbai the film capital of India? It is not only the film capital of India, it is also the largest film industry in the world. The location is such that being a port, the first heavyweight cameras for films arrived here by sea route. And the climate is humid, which is perfect for the longevity and storage of the film stock or reels. Raja Harish Chandra was the first Indian full-length feature film which was produced by Dada Saheb Phalke way back in 1913. The film was named and based on a tale from a Sanskrit epic. Phalke is the father of Indian cinema, and the highest award in the field is named after him. Now we come to the era of silent films. Films did not have an accompanying audio track in the initial days. The set design, costumes, expressions, and the familiar storylines made them popular within a short duration of time. Another feature that stood apart was a dearth of female actors. Films were not considered to be a respectable career option in those days, and women were not allowed to be a part of them. And thus, the female characters were also played by men. Then came the era of talkies, and Alamara was first released in 1931. The Indian cinema entered the era of talkies, or the films that talked. The Tamil film industry began in 1931. The Bengal film industry started in the year 1932, and regional markets for regional products were established. Mostly, the stories from religious epics, folk tales, historical incidents, etc. were adopted and adapted for films. Proving to be profitable across various regions and being dependent on several resources, the film started proving to be an interesting and booming business across the country. This allowed the entry of various production houses or studios in the arena. The owners would acquire cameras, lights, studio space, sound equipment, and would hire few technicians and artists to create films as a collaborative product. Similar elements in different permutations and combinations were mixed in order to create different products. The films that were churned out from these studios were called masala films, as they had the essence of all the elements, ranging from dance and drama, action, romance, and music, etc. Now let us look at the post-independence era. Now this was the golden era when the restrictions on films and other media were lifted. Branching out into the mainstream had the films catering to the masses, while the parallel industry produced films which were more like any other art. And mainstreaming was more escapist, entertainment focused, and choosing to show multiple dream sequences and stories that ended in a happily ever after. Parallel stream was more realistic, and it chose to depict the realities of life and the way life was in that era. Many films from this era won awards on national as well as international levels. The industry thrived in both art as well as commerce. The subject of the films had also moved away from religious to social commentary. Filmmakers like Raj Kapoor and Guru Dutt made films on various social issues like Shri 420, which came in the year 1955, Jagte Raho, the year 1956, and Pyasa, 1957. There were many more that not only commented on the state of the society, the way things were back then, and the challenges which we were dealing with at that point of time. Then came the era of 70s. The rise of a hero who had shades of grey started during this time. He was facing unemployment, he had turned to crime, and he was living in a city but yet was poor. The films of this era, Janjeer, which was in the year 1973, Diwar, 1975, etc., had an angry young man, immortalized by Amitabh Bachchan, who had to take the law in his hands to bring about a social change. It was also during this time that Mumbai film industry alone surpassed the Hollywood in the number of film productions in a year, thus earning global recognition and a popular title of Bollywood. Come 1980s and we enter the romantic era of films. And during the late 80s, the open door economic policy was being discussed. From finding a job, the problem of the youth shifted to finding a love interest. The films blended the idea of love and arranged marriage to the longest running film in the Indian history. This was Hum Aapke Hain Kaun. It was featured the extended Indian diaspora of the NRIs through films like Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. Then we come to 1990s. Love was in the air in the Indian film industry, and the protagonist was not the archetypical hero who anymore had the actors playing around anti-heroes with much ease. There were films like Dar, which came in the year 1993. There was Khalnayak, again in the same year. Anjam, 1994. And they had the mainstream actors play villainous roles as well. So this was turning out to be more challenging for the heroes as well. They were opening a new scope for them. Then came the corporatization of the Indian cinema. There were three things that you need to recall and look at: globalization, digitization, and corporatization. So once we opened our economy to the global players, globalization took place. So others would come and they could invest in Indian sectors, various business sectors that India had. All of it slowly, as the technology improved, we moved towards digitization. And after digitization came corporatization, because this was turning out to be value added and revenue generating profession. So production had become swifter as well as more organized. New technologies have been adopted across the country. And with the opening of multiplexes, there were films that were able to run longer durations of time in smaller theaters and were able to reach out to various segments of the audiences. Filmmakers like Madhur Bhandarkar, Anurag Kashyap, Vishal Bhardwaj, etc. are making films that do not sell like the blockbusters but cater to a niche audiences. So now we are able to give space to all kinds of producers and directors. Those who produce films for niche audiences only and those who produce more of mass films. Then and now, when we compare the situations, we see that in the time of single screen, the films needed to run for silver and golden jubilee weeks to make money. In today's time, they are released on multiple screens and make greater amount of money on a single weekend. So earlier films turned out to be sleeper hits, making money after gaining publicity through word of mouth. And today, many films get off the screen just after the first week, failing to gather audiences. And now when we look at the economics of Hindi films in this light, we know that the history of Indian cinema is at times considered to be the history of Hindi cinema. Hindi cinema is just a part, a major one though, of Indian cinema. Also known as Indiewood, it is the largest film industry of India. Some data suggests that out of the 1986 films that were released in 2018 in India, 364 were in Hindi and the revenue generated was more than 43% of the total. The industry today competes with the products from the international as well as regional film industry. There were certain reasons for profitability of Hindi films, like increasing the per capita income in the country, higher penetration rate in regional and international markets. So with those two important factors, the profitability of Hindi films increased. After this, let us look at the language and other elements of films. While the major language is colloquial Hindi, Urdu, English and Punjabi also play an important role in the lyrics, in the music and the depiction of cultures which are represented on screen. At times, regional accents and dialects will also feature and they can invoke a geographical setup as well. The style and language is usually melodramatic, which means it heightens the drama using various kinds of tropes. Now let us look at what film tropes are. These are the thematic storytelling devices which are able to communicate something figuratively to an audiences. They can be something as simple as an object with symbolic meaning or something as complicated as an action with referential meaning. So this is a universally identified image which is imbued with several layers of contextual meaning and thus it helps in creating a new visual metaphor. Now tropes are also make-believe. Say for example, Rohit Shetty's films show that cars are highly inflammable and catch fire at the drop of a hat. Now with a silencer on the gun, there is absolutely no sound to the extent that nobody around can hear. Sometimes misnomers that are propagated in films are repeated so many times in multiple films that they are believed to be true. That is how tropes become make-believe. Now, talking about the other elements of films, the films usually have a song and dance routine, at times few songs just for the publicity, known as item dances. These songs are sometimes there to attract the audiences and they also provide a different segment than the intended one through the titillation that they provide. Thus, the soundtrack is released before the film and is used in promos as well. It is also widely assumed that if music of a film proves to be a hit, the film automatically will be a hit and will follow suit. Now, the dance routines are shot lavishly with a number of background dancers that come on the camera. Then at times, the location chosen will be outside India so as to provide a visual variety to the audiences. And at times, the background dancers will be of foreign origin to make the visual look more exotic. So you can imagine the kind of revenue that is generated when a film is produced if we are putting in so much efforts in creating the visual variety in a film. The advertising earlier was done through radio ads and billboards. Later, with the entry of television, the medium started hosting filmy songs in Chitrahar, and trailers of films were also shown during the stipulated time slots. Then there was also greater involvement of folk arts, ranging from local puppets to singers to dance forms. Cinema as an art derived a lot from existing performative, visual, creative, and literary arts. There was impact on other film industries. Be it official remakes or copies, Indian filmmakers have found inspiration in every corner of the world, ranging from the United States to European to Korean cinema. And this will definitely follow up with more of such lectures. Thank you very much.
You were just listening to the program titled Indian Films Industry Part 1, Course Code MJM020. The presenter and content coordinator of the program was Dr. Shikha Rai, Associate Professor, School of Journalism and New Media Studies, IGNOU. The program technically supported by P.P. Sharma, edited by Sadan Lal, and program produced by Santosh Kumar Pandian. This program was brought to you by Electronic Media Productions Center of Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi.